Thanks for joining me today. This is the Simply Financial Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Calandra. This is season number 4, episode number 14. My guest today is Harriett Alfred, who I have known for, more than 20 years. She's a teacher in a local school system, inner city school system, and I think she's going to be a wonderful guest. We put this together rather quickly, so I don't think she's had time to think about what she's gotten herself into, but I expect we'll have a very nice discussion. Thanks for spending some time with me here today, Harriett.
Oh, you're welcome, Chris. Anytime.
So you think we met sometime in the early 90s, so it's well more than 20 years, right? Maybe 93, 94, 92, something like that?
Yeah, it's been a few decades. Yeah, we've known each other a long time. So for a while there, I lost contact with you, and we even resurfaced. So, yeah, we real good.
That's right. And you are a public school teacher, and you have been your entire career. We're going to talk about some of that. It is an inner school district you work in, right?
Correct, New Haven Public School.
And that, I imagine, presents some challenges, which I'd like to touch on a bit. Although I do love New Haven, having lived there for a number of years. But maybe we could start. You are not retired yet. You're closing in on retirement. I don't think I'm supposed to ask a woman how old they are, especially when we're recording this. But
right?
Let's just say you're fast approaching retirement age. Is that good?
I am. I have 30-plus years already under my belt.
And so
it's getting close.
So you grew up in Indiana, right?
I grew up in Steel Mill City, Gary, Indiana. Yes, I did.
And so
unfortunately, it's not much left there, but when I was there, it was happening because of the steel mill, and, everybody was coming up there for the wonderful job opportunities because of the industrial, opportunities with the mills and the factories and so forth. But, history tells us what's happened to those now. So.
Sure. And I don't think Gary, Indiana, not that I've ever been there, but I don't think it's ever really recovered.
Not at all, unfortunately.
So in Indiana, growing up as a young woman, did you grow up in a wealthy family, poor, middle class? How would you describe it?
No, I would say we weren't. It's funny because I didn't consider myself poor because my mother made sure I had everything I needed, but we were far from wealthy. And probably the lower middle, not even, if we were taken out of Gary and put somewhere else, because Gary's cost of living was so low. If we moved out and if she had the same income that she was making in Gary and moved somewhere like here, with much higher income, we would have been probably considered poor for real. But it was a single family household. My mother also was a teacher. And in Gary, you had a lot of teachers in Gary, Either you worked in the steel mill or you were a teacher pretty much in Gary. That's what the higher job opportunities were in those two areas. So, like I said, I had a single family. I was the only child, single family household. But I managed to survive.
Yes, you certainly have. And would you say, and I know you lost your mom, maybe 6 years ago now?
2013, yes.
So would you say you've achieved the American dream with the job you have had and the success you've had in building some wealth over time? Would you describe it that way?
Well, I think yes, if being that I'm pretty self-sufficient, I did a lot of listening to my seniors and people that had much more experience than me, took good advice, made some good choices in terms of how to manage my money. So if I had to answer that, I say I think I did pretty well. There's some things probably along the way I may have changed,
Right.
but like I probably wouldn't have waited so late to buy a house.
Right. Because you
But
only bought a house. Well, your first home purchase, the condo you're in now, was what, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years?
correct, a year and a half. Well, not even. What am I saying? A half? A year, actually, a year and a month.
All right.
And a
So
lot of it was fear. I'm being by myself, and I didn't have. Like I said, I'm a teacher, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to handle it. So I saved, and put stuff away, and was advised how to put things away and so forth. So when I was comfortable enough, I did it. So I don't regret doing it. I just regret probably, having waited so late. So that probably would have been one of the biggest things I would have changed if I had
sure.
to.
And you mentioned about getting advice and having gotten some good advice along the way, helping you make good decisions. Can you tell me, thinking again about when you were younger, what did you learn about money growing up?
That's funny. I remember distinctly when I was a little girl and I would see my mother go to the store and she pull out a credit card and get something. I was like, oh, is that all? You just need a card. You didn't need no money. I thought the card was money. So let's just do this. I'm like, Mommy, pull your card out. Why can't we get it? Because you have a card. So finally, one day, she sat me down at the table. I must have been an early 12 or so.
Okay.
And she sat me down at the table. And she said, okay, let me explain something to you. The card is not money. And she showed me the bills. Say, okay, we have to pay this bill. We have to pay the phone bill. We have to pay the electricity. She showed me all the bills, and she added them up. She showed me what the check was that she got. She did the math right there for me and showed me what. After that, I never asked for much of anything else. I understood.
So your memories of this are pretty vivid, huh?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. She showed me what that bill, what the credit card bill. She said, this is what I get. It's not money. So, in other words, she explained the process to me so that at an early enough age where now I knew, oh, boy. So I remember that vividly.
It's funny you say that because studies show that when you use a credit card, on average, you spend 17% more than if you're paying for cash. And there's a psychological element to this, actually, how the brain works, because, and this ties in a little to what you're saying, is that if I go to the store and I actually have to physically hand over cash, I give them the cash, they give me the goods, and then there's the trade, but I don't have the money anymore. I actually had to give over the money. When you use a credit card, you spend 17% more on average, but it makes sense. Just like the 12-year-old Harriett, you give them the credit card, you get the goods, and they give you the credit card back. What a fantastic scenario. But what you learned from your mom at an early age, unfortunately, many people still haven't figured out the discipline part of this financial arrangement, that it is money, it is debt actually, that needs to be paid, and you need to be careful with it because, unfortunately, lots of Americans have an obscene amount of credit card debt and spend well above their means, preventing them from achieving financial success. So that's a great story. Other than your mom, who I imagine is tremendously influential, well, actually, let's stay on your mom for a moment. I'm going to change mid-sentence. What else did you learn from your mom about money? It must have been difficult for her being a single mom. It's common today, as it was when you were growing up. What else did you learn from your mom?
Well, also I learned the importance of saving and I mean, my first job I got, she said, she told me, she said, now, don't spend it all. She helped me. She said, let's try to put a good percent, she showed me. And I think I made in that check maybe $300. I think I tried to save at least 200 of it or 250. I can't remember, but it was a good chunk of it.
Okay.
And so that was one of the things. And she also taught me tithing. We go to church and giving that 10% back and so forth. She explained, if you make $1, you give 10 cents to the church. If you make $10, you give $1 to the church. I learned. I still do that to this day, and making contributions to other organizations. She showed me that she did that too. So I kind of followed in her footsteps with that, with certain organizations like Red Cross and Feed. Is it Feed America? I think that's the one. And the Connecticut Food Bank, those are my favorite ones because I have a problem with the waste that we have in this country with food. So I would definitely donate to those. And it's funny, if I waste food, if I do something wasteful at home, I would give more to Feed America.
Yeah.
As a turnaround. But
two things. I didn't realize that you consistently have tithed all these years that we've known each other. So that comes as a surprise. I'm very impressed. And secondly, I just read an article that it is estimated that a third of the food in America ends up being thrown out and not consumed, which is really a huge number. I mean, that's a crazy big number.
That's obscene. It really is obscene. I've seen food. I go in the store, and I remember there was in Stop and Shop, there was Dunkin' Donuts, and I was coming through, and I was coming down the aisle, and I looked, and I saw him taking the donuts off the rack, and I said, I just happened to ask, what are you going to do with those donuts? We got to get rid of them because it's so-and-so time. I said, you can't give them away or anything? No. I think there's something wrong with the laws in this country.
Yes.
Where, you can't give this food away to somebody that's hungry.
You bring up a good point. Switching gears a bit, we joked at the beginning, about you moving towards retirement, and one of the perks of being a teacher, unlike many professions and careers in this country today, you're part of a very strong pension system, especially in the state of Connecticut. What's your views on having a pension? Like, I don't have a pension. The majority of my clients, Harriett, do not have a pension. And younger workers, unless you're a teacher or a government employee, typically you're going to be in some type of 401k system and not a pension system. How much confidence does that give you in thinking out a bit as you move to retirement, the fact that you are eligible for a very worthwhile pension?
Well, as long as they don't bother it,
yeah.
I feel very good, I feel very good about being a part of that pension plan, especially since we don't collect Social Security like you all do.
Yes.
Teachers, when we're not into the Social Security system. So that pension helps to subsidize that. And like I said before earlier, being a part of the 403B program, I got highly recommended to do by some colleagues. When I first started teaching in '87, I remember some of the seasoned teachers said, if I could turn back the hands of time and start right where you are right now, I would have started mine early. So they advised me, start it early. Even if you don't do anything but $50, just put it in there. And just every time you get a raise, increase it. You'll be fine,
Yeah.
So I listen. I'm a very good listener.